But are you using what God gave you as an individual? Are you using it for God's glory? Because God is going to judge us according to that, our faithfulness. Do you really think that his life was just thrown out there and everything just happened? I mean, we got renowned brain surgeons saving people's lives and healing people. You really reckon that just blew out of a tadpole? I mean, come on. And furthermore, with science in mind, since we're talking about science a lot today, people saying, well, they don't believe in the scientists' words and stuff. I do believe in science as long as we keep it between the lines and it's a study of God's creation. But when it becomes a worship of man's theories, that is when I'm off the train. But with that in mind, if you think that everything just blew into place, my goodness gracious, do you really think that intelligence, nurture, love, healing, helping, smiling, touching, growing, all of that came from dead, void mass? Science will even tell you that intelligence can only come from a pre-existent intelligence. And that is God. So as we examine our lives today, I want you to ask yourself, with the gift that God has given me called life, how am I gifting God with that life? And if that be the case, how do I reckon that means how do I figure in the abilities God has given me? Because it should be for God's glory. We are God's investment for his glory. So with that being said, let's talk about this parable of the talents. Jesus is speaking in Matthew chapter 25. I want you to pick up at verse 14 with me. I'm going to swiftly go through some of these verses as we come back and we drag some subjects out of it that can be very applicable to life. Verse 14, Matthew chapter 25. For the kingdom of heaven is as a man traveling into a far country, who called his own servants and delivered unto them his goods. And unto one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, and to another 1, to every man according to his several ability. And straightway took his journey. Then he that had received the 5 talents went and traded with the same, and made them other 5 talents. And likewise he that had received 2, he also gained other 2. But he that had received 1 went and digged in the earth, and hid his Lord's money. And after a long time, the Lord of those servants cometh, and reckoneth with them. And so he that had received 5 talents came and brought other 5 talents, saying, Lord, thou deliverest unto me 5 talents. Behold, I gained beside them 5 talents more. His Lord said unto him, Well done, thou good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things. I will make thee ruler over many things. Enter thou into the joy of thy Lord. He also that had received 2 talents came and said, Lord, thou didst unto me, deliveredest unto me 2 talents. Behold, I have gained 2 other talents beside them. His Lord said unto him, Well done, good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things. I will make thee ruler over many things. Enter thou into the joy of the Lord. Then he which had received the 1 talent came and said, Lord, I knew thee, that thou art a hard man, reaping where thou hast not sown, and gathering where thou hast not strewn. And I was afraid, and went and hid thy talent in the earth. Lo, there thou hast that is mine. Now look what he said in verse 26. His Lord answered and said unto him, Thou wicked and slothful servant, thou knewest that I reap where I sow is not, and gathered where I have not strewn. What should he have done? Well, he says in verse 27, Thou oughtest therefore to have put my money to the changers, and then all the money to the change, and then all that at my coming I should have received mine own with usury. That's that return in his investment, isn't it? Take therefore the talent from him, and give it unto him that hath 10 talents. For unto every one that hath shall be given, and he shall have an abundance. But from him that hath not shall be taken away even that which he hath. and cast ye the unprofitable servant into outer darkness. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Now you heard it there, and you're hearing in the parable of the talents. We're talking about in subject today that we are God's investment for His glory. What you see in the parable of the talents is people had been given the ability to do things for the master. You and I have been given things in life to do things to gift God with and to brush other people's life with for the glory of God. When I think of all the wasted talents in life and all of the great minds and all the great abilities and all the great charismatic leaders out there. And when I say charismatic, I say it in a very cautiously way. Only in the way that they have the ability to have people come toward them. They have the ability to lead with a gifted interest. They have the ability for people to just flock to their innovation. When I think of these kind of things and how they are used selfishly in their own life and nowhere near for the glory of God, I think of the awesome waste in people's lives. And it makes me ask myself, with the gift, the thing that God gave me, it is the greatest gift ever, and that being life, how am I gifting God back as a return, as if His investment in me? And that's what we're talking about today. I want to look and bring your attention back to the first 4 verses here, from verse 14 through 18. When we speak about the distribution of these talents, I think about the servant in verse 14. For the kingdom of heaven is as a man traveling into a far country, who called his own servants and delivered unto them his goods. Christ is away right now. And folks, I want you to understand that He will return. I don't know when it will be. And the walking dead out there may think I'm crazy for saying it, but He will return, or you will leave this life and return to God. One way or the other, you're going to face God. It is going to happen. All of these things that we previously spoken of did not just happen by chance. And yes, science is a study of God's creation, and we need to fix our eyes on the things above and not get entangled with the things down here to the point where we get so distracted that we waste the life that God give us living for ourselves instead of focusing on a great return we can give to God, so that one day we don't face Him, and we will face Him, and we don't face Him with a heart that is unprepared to meet God. This is a story about individuals that had been given responsibility. The servants met with the master before he went on a journey, and they were given money for investment purposes. Now let's talk about that. We are God's investment for His glory. God has given you the ability to do what you have done for His glory. God has given you the ability to make financial advancements and to make money and to live a comfortable life. You know why? Because He thought He could trust you with that money. Can He? God has given you ability to sing. The bars and the clubs and all of these places are full of people singing karaoke, but how many of them could be singing for Jesus? And somebody may say, well, what's the difference? They're still singing. The songs are not bad. Let me tell you something. When you are singing to advance the furthering of Christ in this world, I promise you, it will not be about Lucky Stars. It will not be about bar stools. It will not be about clubbing and hopping and doing things in your life that draws you away from God. It will be all about things that bring people unto God. Now let me ask you, with that in mind, what are you doing to draw people to God with the life that God has gifted you with? How are you gifting God with that life? We're talking about the parable of the talents today. The sharing. In the Living Bible, it says that the shares were possibly as much as 5,000, 2,000, and 1,000. And the others were simply given according to their ability. Remember the song of the little drummer boy at Christmas time? I play my drum for him. He didn't have anything else to give. He didn't have money. He didn't have spices. We don't know the true basis of the story, but the theory of the story is pretty amazing when you think about it. If you had nothing monetarily to give to God, and perhaps you don't, then what can you give to God then? Maybe that's what we need to hear to bring and shed a better understanding of our lives being used for a gift to God. I hope these are some thought-provoking things. We think about our service in this condition here. In our lives, some put their money into service by investing it to gain an investor. That being your life being said, that being your life, how would that be? How many people have you inspired about Christ in your life? How many people have I inspired about the Lord? Somebody may say, well, you're a pastor, Scott, it's easier. You get your moment on the shoebox every week. Well, you know what? I don't like to use shoebox, but I get your point. I come up here, I get this undivided attention. But you know what? You get your undivided attention too. Every time you worship God and walk out that door to serve Him, you get your opportunity to share Christ with the world. And sometimes it doesn't come with word. It simply comes with your life lived. And I promise you, a sentence, a statement that is spoken in your actions is much greater often than just what your lips can do. Amen. We are God's investment for His glory. So somebody may say, well, what's wrong with burying that talent? Maybe he was afraid he would lose it, and therefore he cared for the master's investment. Oh, maybe he was... No, you know what? This story has much farther reaching implications than a man that was careful. He was not careful, he was careless. He did not want to invest himself in what the master gave him. He knew that the master required a return on his investment, and he tried to play coy and play the victim and bury it as if God was stupid and kind of just make a mockery of God's intelligence, or in his case, the master's intelligence. He knew what the master's implications were. He knew what the master expected of him. I'm giving you this. I want you to take it and use it, and I want to see a return on my investment. One day God is going to bring us before Him. Christian, even in your life, although you're saved, God is still going to say, I have brought you before the judgment seat of Christ, and I want to see a return in the investment that I gave you called the life of salvation that you live. What have you got to show for it? God forbid we stand a great white throne judgment. That's the one for the sinner. And God has given you a tremendous opportunity. He's given you years of opportunity. He has put wonderful people around you that can influence you for Christ. And you squander all of them years. He gave you a good job. He gave you a good retirement. He gave you wonderful children. Children that were moldable and ready to see a tremendous impact and influence for the cause of Christ. And you never did it. And you stand before God one day. And God says and opens the books the Bible speaks. And He will begin to review your life. Just like an accountant when he says, I want to see your books. Well, God has a book. And our life will be recorded in that book.